Hey, it's Troy DeGroat with you, Chapter 2, and today I just wanted to put together a real quick video to show you some land development Bluebeam tools of the trade. And this video is going to go along with a blog post that I wrote at uchapter2.com and also an article that I wrote for the Bluebeam Built blog. So you can check those out. I'll put the links in the notes. So first off, we're going to talk about the polylength tool. So anytime we want to measure linear footage of something, in this case, I want to point out the tool that I built for a silt fence. So I was doing erosion control estimating for those materials. And if you go to the measurement panel over here, the second one in is our polylength tool. And how that works is you can basically go and trace whatever material you're trying to measure. Double click when you're done, and it's going to give you the length of each segment and a total length for that material. Now, you can always grab onto these grips and adjust that shape if you need to, whether it's a revision or you just missed when you were tracing over it. You can also hold your shift key and remove those grips or add new ones if you click on that line with the shift key down. So that's the basics of a polylength tool. Now, in order to make that clean and make some custom tools for all of my future projects, what I did was I came in and created a custom tool from that. So just a few of the things that I did there. I turned off the line segment values in the properties for that line. That way I would just get the total in here. And then another thing that I did was set a different line style. So there's several that come with Bluebeam. And then there's some extra ones, some advanced ones that you can find. I went and created my own. So I created my silt fence custom line style. And it looks like the one in the legend on the civil drawings. So I took the legend here and made mine look very similar to what they had. So there wouldn't be any discrepancy in what's what in there. So that's my polylength tool. Then I just went around and I traced everywhere where they show their fence, and all of my quantities are down below in my markups list. So here you can see my silt fence. There's 4 markups in that of that type. Gives me the length of each one and a total length for my silt fence. Okay, next one I want to go over is the volume. So not so much with erosion control. Some of these, I guess with the, this one here is the construction entrance, and they were looking for area on this one. Not necessarily volume, but if I know the depth of that rock driveway, I could easily add that depth to that markup and get the volume of rock there as well. So if I'm working with volume, I'm going to go back to my measurement panel. There's a volume tool here, and I'll just come over here. Oops, need to switch sheets. Just a blank area over here. You can trace a shape or click and drag a rectangle. And when you do that, initially it's going to say 0 cubic feet. And that's because we haven't given it a depth yet. We need to select that markup, go over to our measurement panel over here again. And about 2/3 of the way down, it's going to say depth. And we want to make sure that we put in a depth. So if this is 20 inches, we'll go ahead and put in 20 inches, and that will give us our cubic feet. Now we want to switch that volume over here to cubic yards or cubic meters, whatever we're trying to get those measurements towards. And that will give us our cubic yards for a 20-inch deep area here. Now, with contours, I get asked that a lot. A lot of times with the volume tool, I will trace the contours. So we've got 805 and 810. If we're going to cut out a section, I might trace over this line segment, or this contour, sorry, and then cut back here, follow this one. And again, we're just looking for a rough estimate. Follow this through here, and then I'm going to double click to finish. And now what I would do with that, I've got my area, and the contour, the difference in the contours is 5 feet. So I would give the depth of that the average of 2.5 feet. So it'll be low on one end and high on the other. And hit enter. Switch this over to cubic yards or cubic meters, and then I have an idea of my cut or fill in that area. So that's how I would do that. Obviously, if you're cutting out of there, cut or fill, you might go with the average depth. You might go with half of that. If you're cutting it out, think about the depth of that markup and what that might look like in the real world with those contours. So that's the method behind that one. The next thing that I want to show is phasing. So if I have this area up here and it's going to be phase 1, I can go to my spaces over here. If you don't have that tool, you just right click in this black area, go to show, and spaces is going to be down here, or Alt S is the shortcut to turn that on. And what you're going to do is open up that spaces, create a new space, and just draw, either click and drag or draw area around that. And it's going to ask you for a name. So I'm going to call this phase 1 and hit OK. And down here, I might just draw a box around this and call this phase 2 and say OK. Now when I look at my markups list and all of the markups that I have different phases in here. So I have phase 1 and phase 2. And I can sort that by space and break down all the materials that are in those different phases. So it gives me a little bit different idea of maybe when those need to be purchased or when they need to be delivered, things like that. We can break that down by phase using spaces. The next thing is legends. So over here you can see I created a legend of the materials that I was measuring. So it's giving me all of my quantities, and the legends are live. So if you're using those tools in your tool set that we created, so if I go over to my tool chest over here, I can grab my silt fence tool and just trace over whatever area I'm working in. Double click when I'm done, and there you can see my quantity of silt fence increased. I'll show that here. So that's a live legend that will update when I add or remove any material. So those are the tools that I wanted to show today real quick. If you have any questions, jump into the forums and the user groups on the Chapter 2 website. There's a civil group in there. You can ask your questions in any of those groups. There's people all over the world that will help answer those. So hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it was helpful. Check out the blog post as well. Again, I'll put those links in the descriptions. Thanks for watching.